I wanted to ask, in 2018, you started studying ventriloquism. Can you talk about, was it the lamb chop influence that made you want to do that, or what made you go down that road?
That one was so about a year after I had started nannying these kids, their mom was saying that we should set up some kind of a weekly group, small group for kids. And we did. We had about 6 kids and the puppet, and we were doing science and English and art. And it grew from there. We ended up renting a community center. We filled the community center. People were asking for a second day of it. And once I realized that for the price of renting the community center twice a week, I could just have a location of my own. So we rented or we leased a commercial space, and I got all the licensing and everything. I went through all that summer. And so we had just set up and opened, and we were interviewed on the local morning show. So a ventriloquist coach who teaches the pageant girls a talent basically for their pageant. He had seen that video of the morning show where they interviewed me about my new program and how I incorporate puppets. And he says, "Would you like to learn ventriloquism?" And at first I was like, that's a little bit bizarre. I think I'm okay. People are looking at the puppet and not at me anyway. And he's like, well, but because you have the kids there, it would really sell it if you were able to make the puppet do the talking. And I was like, oh yeah, you're not wrong there. So I had started that September of 2019. And then when the pandemic hit, a few months later, I had all the time in the world to practice. So that's where that came from. And it ended up being a really fun and cool thing. And of course, we were all doing it virtually, doing school online and going live. So it wasn't as big of a like, oh, I see your lips moving, because there was glitches in the technology, in the Zoom calls or everything. So I could hide it a lot better. So then by the time we came out of the pandemic, and of course we were wearing masks too, so that helped. So I had a very nice, easy on-ramp to it. And that's kind of how the ventriloquism started. And now it's just what I do. Like I put the puppet on and I don't even think about what my face is doing. So.
Well, and you kind of did it as I watched one of your videos on your channel, because you kind of talk about ventriloquism. You almost did it as a correspondence course, but like a modern day thing where you would video yourself and send it in, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because he was located, he travels around a lot, again, for those pageants. And so he was just like, whenever you get a chance. It wasn't anything official. He never charged me for anything. He just said, whenever you get an opportunity, here's what I would like you to practice on. Focus on these letters. And then I would send him a video. And then he would kind of tweak it or say, give me a different technique to try or different way to do it. And little by little, with those little modifications and adjustments as we went, then I would send him more stuff. And then I still haven't actually completed what he would like me to do, which is to have 2 puppets on at once, which my brain just, I don't know. I'm getting too old for that stuff. So.
What would you say was the biggest challenge learning ventriloquism? I mean, you said you had sort of an easy on-ramp, but what was like sort of your biggest hurdle to get over?
Probably my own ideas of it. Like, it's very weird. It's a very weird thing to do. So I was already known as the weird kid, and I was trying to do everything to not go even further. And then at some point I was like, you know what, let's just embrace it. I'm the weird kid. Let's just go with it. And it's been great. People are a lot more accepting of it once you own it. Once you are who you are, people enjoy that a lot more than you trying to pretend to not be that.
And did it open up things you could do with the puppets a little bit more by learning ventriloquism? Like, what was your teacher correct in, like, oh, it makes it more believable if it's just the puppet talking?
It does, yeah, and especially with some of the younger kids, because in my homeschool program that I run, I've got kids from all ages. So I have a group of littles that are kinder through second, and then I've got middles who are third through sixth, and then I even work with teenagers. And of course, they don't really interact with the puppets as much, but they learn how to do puppet builds and create their own shows and things like that in my program. But with the littles in particular, the quiet ones, for whatever reason, they were really drawn to talking to the puppet. And I've had a couple instances where they've come up and they're like, Miss Moddy, can I please speak to Alexa? And I go, yeah, sure, okay. And they're like, no, but just Alexa. So, I can have to turn around and give them their privacy and let them just have a little chat. And they'll tell her about a bully that's bugging them, or they'll tell them about different worries that they have about things. And it's fascinating to see that because of that disconnect that the ventriloquism has created, where they really think that the puppet is the one that's talking. And so it's this whole separate entity from me. Whereas before it was like, oh, we see the puppet and we see you talking and we get what's going on and we'll play along. But now it just became more real for them.
Excellent. How long did you study before you felt like, okay, I can do this in front of people?
Not enough. Let's say that. Not enough. I think I am very much like, hey, I learned a thing. Let me show you, even if it was just 5 minutes ago. So I am, yeah, that's never been a block for me to show a skill. So I had started doing ventriloquism in September of 2019, and I believe we put on a children's theater performance in December. So just a few months later, and I used Alexa as like our intro MC to the show. And so I was doing ventriloquism to an audience of, I don't know, maybe 100 parents or so. So yeah, not very
Right
much.
away. I love
right
it.
away.
I love it. Jump in.
Yes.